Welcome back, everyone. We're here with Mike and Gabe of the brand new, just announced Georgia State Collective, the All Blue All In. Is it All Blue All In or All Blue All NIL? I've seen it listed both ways.
All Blue NIL. We're trying to a little bit of have some fun with that and see if people pick up on it on the website. If they don't, we might just change up the verbiage. But yeah,
I've just seen it listed a couple of different places in different ways, so I wasn't sure exactly. But All Blue All NIL, I love it. We've been waiting for this for a long time. It's huge for Georgia State. For the people that are listening who are not up to date on what collectives or NIL is, would you guys just kind of give us a brief rundown on what this means and what it means to the Georgia State and the players?
yeah. So as you guys know, about 2 years ago, student athletes were allowed to start to make money off their NIL, their name, image, and likeness. Legally, yes. So before that, if and you know, everybody's heard many of the stories of guys signing autographs and jerseys and all that kind of stuff and getting busted by the NCAA for things that they couldn't do under the rules at the time. So now under the rules, players, student athletes can make money off their name, image, and likeness. And some are able to do it just kind of on their own. As you guys may or may not know, there's, I think, 3 or 4 guys on the football team right now who have like clothing deals and stuff like that. What we're able to do is add to that. We have 2 platforms set up. One is just go in and you donate money. You can donate it to the general cause, or you can donate it to a sport specific cause. Obviously, right now we're just trying to raise as much money as we can, and then we'll dictate out where that needs to go and how student athletes can help support the collective in terms of posting it on social media. We may do some behind the scenes video stuff along those lines. The other way that we can help them we're partnered up with a group called Matchpoint that will help line up sponsorship dollars where a student athlete and whether it's a sponsor that's already a Georgia State sponsor or somebody else that we go out there and find who wants to partner up with a Georgia State student athlete, can help them make money, and in turn, or using their name, image, and likeness, to whether it's sign autographs, whether it's to promote on social media, whether it's just making an appearance at a bank or a pizza parlor or whatever the case may be. So Gabe and I, as you alluded to, we started this with that goal of how can we help promote this even more, and really get this off the ground for Georgia State. At the end of the day, technically we are not affiliated with the Georgia State Athletics program, but we are the official collective of Georgia State Athletics.
That's what I was awesome. That sort of goes into what I was going to ask is how much are you guys allowed? I know there's all these rules around, what you can and can't do and all this other stuff. How much are you able to actually coordinate with, coaches or the athletic department or whomever would need to coordinate with?
Yep, 100%. We're able to, I've been, especially over the last, we'll say 2 weeks, been talking to Charlie Cobb, Eric Paz, who oversees compliance, on basically a daily basis of the pieces that we were putting in place, asking, because at the end of the day, and Gabe will allude to this as well, we want to make sure that we do this completely by the book. This is not one of those things. And even though, yes, there are rules and regulations, it still is also a little bit the wild, wild west. If we want to be perfectly honest, I think that is going to change in the coming years. I think you're going to see there's some rules and regulations put in place just to make sure that it's not becoming a pay for play, which is what, trust me, nobody wants to see happen. Because at that point, I think the top 15, 20 football programs in the country are going to run away and hide from everybody else, if I'm being honest. So we've been wanting to make sure that from the start of this, even when we sat down with him for the first time, hey, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. We're going to build it as best we can, but we're also going to make sure that if the time comes that, hey, the NCAA comes looking, we'll have all of our ducks in a row. Our student athletes will be fine. We'll be fine. And the athletics department will be fine.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think Mike kind of summarized up everything well with kind of what our goals are and where we're trying to get this thing headed. We're just trying to facilitate the relationships between these student athletes and not only the companies and businesses in Atlanta, but just the Panther family as a whole, and get our outreach as far as we can. And it's definitely still is the Wild Wild West right now. The statutes and regulations and everything are ever changing for this, and everybody's trying to figure it out. So we just wanted to make sure that we got everything set up right and took our time and built it to where it would be the most sustainable for us moving forward.
Well, Gabe, you have a very unique position in this whole thing. A former Georgia State athlete, 4 years, now an attorney. So you're kind of bringing the best of both worlds, this whole thing, to keep it on the up and up, but then also have that unique perspective of being a former athlete. What would have something like this meant to you as a player back when you were in school here?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy just to see how the sport's changing as a whole and kind of how just bringing the NIL into the ballpark and, having it where all these universities can utilize it to bring these athletes in, help with the transfer portal and everything else. I think it's just important to kind of, give the student athletes a part in something that they're so central to on a day-to-day basis because, without them out there on the field, we're not here talking today. So I just think allowing them to have those opportunities to, get with the boosters and alumni and just people in the Atlanta community to, build relationships that they'll be able to use to help them out in short term, just with, making the money from it and being able to get that additional exposure, but just being able to build those relationships and, depend on those people down the line just because of the connections that you made, I think is going to be vital for those kids.
Yeah, I think it's great for the university athletics as a whole. Like while you were doing all your research around this, like did you connect with other schools? Did you glean anything like really important and key as you were kind of forming our collective for Georgia State?
Yeah, very much so. And to be honest, I kind of went straight to the top. I didn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I did look at several Sunbelt schools and what they were doing at the times or what they were getting to. But I looked at Georgia's a lot. I looked at LSU's a lot. And for me to sit here and say, hey, I think we're going to make as much money as Georgia's has or LSU's has, probably a little unrealistic. Don't worry. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're shooting for the stars with this. But they knew what they were doing. They were on the ground, first in on the ground floor, really pushed it out, and have done really extremely well with it. And in some of those cases, those schools have multiple collectives. But no, so I'll be honest. I used Georgia's collective site when I was building out our website and using the Oki agency just to give me some ideas of like, what do we need to include? What don't we need to include? Same thing with LSU. And what really helped us with LSU was then realizing the partnership that we needed to have with Matchpoint, which will help facilitate some of these sponsorship deals and stuff as we move forward. So no, definitely looked across the board. If there was one thing, and I'll take a step back to give you guys kind of the timeline of all this. We first met last November to kind of start the process and like, hey, is this feasible? Do we want to do this? So on and so forth. Gabe and I really got focused on it probably late February, early March was about when we got incorporated. And it still took us 5 more months to get this thing off the ground because of I won't say speed bumps, but even just changes in regulations as we went along. So, I'm happy that we're obviously finally off the ground. The one thing I'm probably disappointed by is that Georgia Southern beat us to the punch about a month ago.
We don't count them.
There. And
they got to win something.
That'd be the only disappointment in the whole thing was not being able to get ahead of them when it came to it. But we were definitely trying to do our best to get there.
Well, they followed us to FBS, and they're still trailing us in the all-time record. So, we can throw a little scrap to those guys down south,
A little bone. Yep.
Yeah, give one every once in a while.
You talked about the disparity between, the amount of money that, a collective for Georgia State might get versus what UGA would get. And so probably you guys would have to be more strategic with how disbursements happen and who you're targeting to, all that stuff. What is the strategy for those disbursements and that more targeting and strategic disbursements, I guess?
Yeah. So the way that this will probably play out or will play out is as we start to build those funds up, as we alluded to earlier, good first day, but obviously we know we've got a long way to go. Is what I think we're going to see is, and this happens at a lot of others, has been happening with a lot of the other collectives, is you'll see donations start to come in that are sport specific. So say we'll use an example, $50,000 comes in for the football program. Okay. We're able to go to the coaching staff and say, hey, all right, this is what, is sitting around in a pot for you guys. What do you want to do? Is it one of those situations where it's like, hey, all right, we got 100 players and $50,000. We're going to give each guy $500. Is it, hey, you know what? We're going to save some for the end of the year, knowing that, hey, is there some transferring going on? Obviously, we saw what happened at the end of last year for Coach Elliott.
Well, we're all watching Thrash up in Louisville.
Yes, exactly. How does that all play out? And that's all within the rules and regulations of what we can do. And I'll be honest, when we knew that we were going to finally launch this today, there was definitely some messages and calls that I made on Friday to just give some head coaches a heads up that this was coming. So it'll play out like that. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, Gabe and I have the discretion to decide who's getting what and how we do it. But for this to be truly successful, we need the full buy-in of every coach, every student athlete. Because as much as Gabe and I can go out and raise money and make phone calls and do stuff on social media, the coaches can kind of push money our direction too. I mean, they know donors and they talk to people and they have people who are very, that they can get in front of and be influential too. The only way this is going to work for everybody is it's got to be everyone working together. So it's not just, okay, well, let's give to the collective. It's how do we continue to build the Panther Athletic Club? How do we continue to build for facilities enhancements for Georgia State? So it really does need to all come together. But I think I know the coaches are fully behind this, and I think that's what's really going to help this thing grow in the coming weeks and coming months.
Well, one of the first things I did when the links came out today was I went to one of my favorite parts of a website, and that was the merchandise. And nothing out there yet, coming soon. So I think I saw you mention in another tweet with the Oakley stuff or something else about within the coming months or whatever. Any clues you can give us about what we can find?
I'll give some hints. You guys will be the first among the first
All
ones.
right.
So for those, everybody knows by now, we've been working with the Okie Agency. Two former Georgia State golfers who have done a lot of stuff for Georgia State over the last it's probably been more than 5 years at this point. They also have a clothing line. So great. They call it casual lifestyle. I kind of think of more golf related stuff called Lewis Lloyd that I recommend everybody take a look. They do some really good stuff. I've got more than a few of their things I can honestly say, but they've got everything in place to get us up and get us running. So from maybe doing some quarter zips to hats to we've got some ideas. I'm not going to give away all the cards tonight, but they're going to be a great partner with us. They've already partnered on the website and I think have done a phenomenal job with it. We're going to be able to do a lot of video elements. A lot of people know that they did the Our City video back in 2018, maybe 2017. They're really good, and they're doing stuff throughout the city. They're also doing some stuff with other collectives as well from a merchandise perspective. So it's a perfect in for us. I love the fact that we can be also supporting former student athletes just as we're trying to support current student athletes. And as I said, they bleed Georgia State blue as much as anybody. So they were excited to help, and they're going to do good by us, which is really appreciated as well.
That's fantastic. I've got another question for you. We kind of talked about this a little bit. You kind of went into it, but we were talking in our private group chat about what this means and how it's going to work. And I feel like there's a big education component to the fan base out there about, we've been beating people over the head for the past 10, 12, 15 years that, if you give money to the PAC, that's what we need. That's what supports a student athlete. But now it's like there's this whole new thing out there. So how do you approach these donors and these potential donors, explaining what this is and how it's different and how this does not mean to not donate to the PAC? We still need those PAC contributions as well. But we also, this is just a new thing in college sports. And how do you get that message across?
Yeah, it's definitely a fine line because obviously at the end of the day, the athletic department is trying to raise money. We're trying to raise money. But I think the fact that we're working as cohesively as we can within the rules will help. I'll give an example real quick. I had a person call me late last week once they kind of had heard this was going to be kicking off, and they make a nice donation. to the athletic department every year and purchase basketball season tickets, and I would say are a very good supporter of the program. And they really just wanted to understand, like, well, if we give the money to you guys now, is that will that allow us to still buy season tickets? And I said, no, that's a completely separate entity, or the two of us are completely separate entities. And so by the time the conversation was over, he understood. So yes, is there an element of this that, hey, you know what, if you've got $100 that you've been given to the Panther Athletic Club and you only have the ability to give a total of $100, you might say, all right, well, I want to give $100 here and I'm not going to give anything here. Or you might do 50 and 50. The beauty of all of this is that we're all working together. And if we make this as big as we hope we can make this, it's only going to do things to enhance what Georgia State's able to do from an athletics department standpoint, and keeping keeping our student athletes around, helping promote and bring in better recruits who know that they can come to Georgia State and are going to be supported in a different way. Hopefully that then leads to more wins, which leads to more season ticket holders, which means to buying more tickets and better opponents, and so on and so forth. And it'll just kind of keep rolling down. So yeah, could you say there's a little bit of competition? I mean, I guess that's one way to look at it. We're definitely not looking at it like that. We're looking at it of, hey, let's bring it all together and really make this successful, to just enhance and get Georgia State to a place that we know it can be and we know it should be. And, I mean, I've been around the program now for 25 years, and when I arrived at Georgia State, I never would have thought we were even close to where we are now. So who's to say what we can't be 25 years from now? And I think even if Gabe talked about it, I mean, look at where Gabe came from. And Gabe, I'll let you go into detail, but like from the first time you showed up for a football practice to where the program is now, it's light years ahead. I don't know that people always really realize what has happened and try to just look more of what hasn't happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy just how far, Georgia State and our athletics department has come just since even I've been in school. I mean, of course, getting, Center Park Stadium has been big in it because we've been able to build around it, and there's housing that's over there now. The players can live close by, athletes can live close by, and it's all starting to get more and more centralized. So, of course, that, just acquiring that property and being able to build that as the home for our university and our athletics, I think has been extremely important. But it's crazy just to see how far, the department continues to keep growing, because when we got here, it was crazy just because our football, the field house was not located anywhere close to where our dining halls and, the dorms were. So we would be having the dorms that were downtown, and we would have to walk over to 188 to practice, and then have to take our laundry, to there, and then walk over downtown by the sports arena to lift weights. So just the fact that they have everything centralized now, and the dining and everything else, I mean, the players are, blessed to be in the situation. And just for all the developments that we have, it's crazy to think that we keep growing, and we can continue to, get bigger and bigger. And where's the ceiling at for Georgia State? And we're in downtown Atlanta. We're in a great place. We have great coaches. I can't say enough about Coach Elliott. I enjoyed playing for him more than anything else. Probably a little bit biased just because, I'm offensive lineman, and he would be everything else. And he's high energy, he's high tempo, and I love the direction that our athletic department's headed in. We're off to a great start at 3-0 this year for the first time ever.
Yeah.
So I think it's really just continuing to strive for greatness and to have new first, and just keep growing this thing as big as we can get it.
Yeah, I guess you have that. I talked about that unique perspective, especially when it comes to this as well, because you get to be part of that very early part of Georgia State, not the first team, but like really, really close in there. So you get sold on that whole become part of history, make history of Georgia State, and then now that is history, you're like, man, sure is nice now. I wish I had all this stuff.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, that's how you want to leave a program, because if the program's not continuing to grow and being able to provide more things for their athletes, then you didn't do enough when you were there laying the groundwork in the first place. So I think a lot of times we like to look back and jealously think about all the things that we didn't have, where I mean, we should really just all be grateful that we got the opportunity to play there when we did, and everything that we got out of it. I mean, Georgia State was instrumental in not only helping me out on the field, but just helping me with my education and law school and everything else. And Charlie Cobb and the athletics department did everything that they could to help me along that journey. So anything that I can do to give back to them, I think that's what I should be doing.
That's awesome. I think, Tim, you got one more question, and then we'll let you guys get onto your lives here.
Yeah, I think one easy slam dunk sponsorship should be Pringles for Pringle. So easy. It's like it's 2 seconds. Call them.
I like that. If that comes to be, we'll make sure we get you some gear.
Oh, there you go.
Merchandise. It's for the idea. I like that.
Well, we did get another. I'm watching the page. There was another donation that came in, at least one since we've been on here. So I'm going to take full credit that it was.
It was me. I did it.
See, I was gonna say we're only streaming this to our subscribers right now, so
it was me.
I'm gonna take credit for it. Yeah, I'll take credit for Ryan's donation there.
That's fair. I was a little embarrassed pre-show that I hadn't donated yet, and I was like, let me just knock this out before they get out of here.
We greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I will let you guys get out of here, but thank you very much. You guys have a welcome space on here. Anytime you want to come on, talk about what the collective's doing, anything that we can do to help in any way at all. In addition to making our own financial contributions, which we've now done, and but thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yep, thank you,
guys. We really appreciate it as well, and definitely we'll keep you guys in the loop. And I'm sure we'll be seeing all you guys at a football game before too long.
Yeah, absolutely. On the bricks for sure.
We'll be out there before you want to be out there.
Guaranteed. I 100% guarantee that.
If they keep doing these night games too, but we're going to be out there. We're going to spend way more time outside of on the bricks than we will inside the stadium.
I'm going to have to keep rewatching the games after.
Not a bad way to spend a Saturday, though.
Not bad. Not bad. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Appreciate it, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.